Hi, part three. I wanted to talk a little bit about some additional things that I've used to get a two-tone or multitonal response out of mallets. Again, when we talk about a two-tone or a multitonal mallet, we're talking about a mallet that not only gets louder as you increase the velocity, but that changes its character, that gets brighter as you get harder, as the stroke gets harder. Now, what this means is that to get something that is bright at a loud dynamic, the mallet has to have a hard core. It just does. The hardness has to come from somewhere, and it's going to come from the core. And what we're going to do is we're going to find materials that compress easily so that you have, so that this core can kind of kick through a bunch of outer layers as the velocity of the stroke increases from piano up to forte. People think about this differently. My thinking is that a two-tone mallet and a multi-tone mallet are actually two distinct things. With a two-tone mallet, as the velocity of the stroke increases, you want there to be a break. You want there to be a sudden change, and so you want a material that's going to compress fairly easily. The two big ones that I've found that do that are foam rubber and felt. For foam rubber, you can go to the drugstore and buy what's called mole foam. Not moleskin, mole foam. Moleskin is just that thin adhesive cloth, but it's very, very thin and it's just fuzzy. Mole foam is that adhesive backing plus a little layer of sponge rubber, and then moleskin, sort of fuzzy stuff on top of it. A strip of mole foam wrapped around a hard core like this will get you that compressible layer that will give you that break as you hit mezzo forte, and then all of a sudden it becomes a very, very hard mallet. There are pieces in the repertoire that practically require this kind of mallet. A lot of the early Japanese rep requires it. I'm thinking of Time by Minoru Miki. I think there are parts of Mirage by Tsuyoshi where this is really valuable. Movements from the Sukagawa 5 Pieces for Paul Klee. Really beautiful piece, really fabulous piece, but which requires this kind of two-tone mallet. If you want to work with felt, and a long time ago, the first time I saw felt in a mallet core was with old Bob Van Cise synthetic core two-tone sticks. This is back when ProMark was making them, so not any of the current Vic Firth sticks, but the old ProMark Van Cise sticks had a hard plastic. It was more of a puck shape, like this core, with a layer of felt around it. And this is where you're going to want to go to the hardware store. If you go to the hardware store, you can find, especially in the insulation section, you can find just coils of medium-grade industrial felt. And you can either glue or use double-sided tape to attach a layer of that, or 2 layers of that, to a hard plastic core. You can also go to the furniture, so the section that has like those little adhesive felt pads that you put on the ends of furniture legs, the rubber tips that you put on the ends of chair legs to keep them from marring the floor. A lot of times in that section they'll actually have adhesive backed coils of felt strips. You can buy one of those, cut it to length, adhere it to a core like this, and have the beginnings of a two-tone mallet with a compressible layer. For a multitonal response stick, we're talking about not one that has a very sudden break in brightness as the velocity increases, but one that very gradually does. I tried a bunch of things, and I've found it. I've found the thing. It's this Nexcare foam, waterproof foam tape. You can see it right there. I picked this up at Walmart. A roll of it is really cheap, and you could make a very respectable set of set of multi-tonal sticks by taking a hard plastic core like this, and maybe your soft stick is going to have 7 layers of that tape. You're going to want to count the wraps. You're going to want to count the wraps, and when we get to yarn, you're still going to want to count your wraps. It's going to be a recurring theme, but maybe 7 layers of tape for a soft, and 6 layers for a medium soft, and 5 layers for a medium, and 4 layers for a medium hard. I've made several mallets like that have a very pleasing increase in brightness as you increase the velocity, with a very pleasing kind of medium finished weight, if that's the kind of mallet that you like. That Nextcare foam tape is really, really good. And you can use all of this stuff in conjunction with one another. So for example, if you wanted a multi-tonal mallet or a two-tone mallet that didn't get quite so bright at the top, you can take a core like this, put a thin layer of latex tubing under it, and then add your compressible felt or foam tape or mole foam around the outside of that, and then wrap it with yarn. You want to keep in mind that when you're working with a two-tone or a multi-tonal mallet, what's inside the compressible layer is going to make up the bright or the hard aspect of that multi-tonal mallet, and then what's on the outside of the compressible layer is what's going to make up the darker or the softer aspect of it. You can do a lot of this. Well, not a lot of it, but you can also mess around with the tension as you wind, because a layer of yarn that's wrapped very, very tightly will compress less than a layer that's wrapped loosely. But I wouldn't recommend trying to make a multi-tonal or a two-tonal mallet just by wrapping a hardcore loosely with yarn. What you'll find is that you crack a lot of bars because the yarn compresses permanently and wears out pretty quickly. You're going to want some kind of compressible layer in there. Next up, we'll get out some yarn and I'll show you, there are a bunch of different ways to wrap with yarn. I'll show you what I do, and I'll take you through one of the mallet projects that I'm currently involved with. Great.